Good luck in selling that idea.
May I help, Mr. Collins?
No, I mean that seriously. It is ridiculous that people were reduced to doing what they did.
May I help, Mr. Collins? Which is that because I think it's a very good question, and I think it's a really important question, and I understand it's going to be one of the subjects of the judicial inquiry which the Prime Minister announced last week, which as a company we immediately welcomed and we look forward to. This question of public interest, the question of what's acceptable and what isn't in terms of investigative techniques is an important one, but let me be very clear. The codes of conduct of News Corporation globally for our employees, journalists or otherwise are very clear that breaking the law is a very, very serious matter. It should be, people who are lawbreakers should be held to account. And in the matter of something like phone hacking or topically payments to police and things like that, we just don't think they should have any place in our business.
So, James Murdoch, you would be very clear that within your company, within your organisation, senior people should have been very aware that phone hacking was not only illegal but totally unacceptable.
Well, I think after the particularly in light of the successful prosecutions and convictions of the individuals involved in 2007, it could not be taken more seriously. And if as it has in cases,
To what extent do you think you have a tell you things that they think you want to hear, and that even people that have been your trusted advisors and worked with you for years simply withhold information because they want to curry favour?
No, not my trusted advisors, certainly. You should hear the conversations in my office. They're coming in all the time.
Forgive me, I'm not asking because a lot of your trusted advisors have now left the company. So a lot of your trusted advisors have now left your company.
Most people say I've got crazy ideas and vote against me.
So a lot of your trusted advisors have left your company, though.
We're a very big company. I'm sure there may be people who try to please me. That could be human nature, and it's up to me to see through that.
May I ask, to what extent do you think there is pressure on editors and senior managers to get scoops, to outdo each other, to win favour within the organisation that leads them to take risks and clearly, in the case of News of the World, push boundaries that broke the law?
Do you ask that again? I'm sorry.
Why do you think that? Do you think there is a pressure on editors of your newspapers which leads them to take risks and break boundaries where, in the News of the World, there was illegal action and wrongdoing, people broke the law in order to get scoops?
No, I think it's totally wrong. There is no excuse for breaking the law at any time. There is an excuse, if I may say so, and I think rightful for newspapers, all newspapers, when they wish to campaign for a change in the law, but never to break it.
Just two further questions, if I may.
I just say, this is perhaps addressing something, I just wanted to say that I was brought up by a father who was not rich but was a great journalist. And he, just before he died, bought a little small paper, specifically in his will saying he was giving me the chance to do good. And I remember what he did and what he was most proud of, and for which he was hated in this country by many people for many, many years, which was expose the scandal of Gallipoli, which I remain very, very proud of.
I think all students of history are well aware of
that. Just addresses the question of being a family business. And I would love to see my sons and daughters follow their, if they're interested.
If I may, Rupert Murdoch, you said earlier on that you have had frequent meetings with prime ministers during your career. In the period after the arrest,
I wish they'd leave me alone.
of Clive Goodman, which you said you were aware. You said earlier on that you were aware of the situation when Clive Goodman was sent to prison, and you were aware of the case at that stage. In the years after that, where there were numerous reports, investigations, hearings of this committee, we've heard a lot about them today. Did any senior politicians that you're in contact with, or you were in contact with during that period of time, raise this as an issue with you, raise concerns about phone hacking?
Absolutely never. The politician I met most in those days was Mr. Brown, when he was Chancellor of the Exchequer, His wife and my wife struck up quite a friendship, and our children played together on many occasions. And I'm very sorry that I'm no longer. I felt he had great values, which I shared with him, and I'm sorry that we've come apart, and I hope one day we'll be able to put it together again.
Just sort of one final question to Rupert Murdoch, which is, you said in the interview you gave to the Wall Street Journal that you thought that your fellow executives of the News Corporation had handled this crisis very well with just a few minor mistakes. Do you stand by that statement, or do you believe the level of mistakes was far greater than that?
Well, they seem very big now. I mean, what we did was terrible, but you're talking about handling the crisis. Sorry, I'm trying to just tell me not to gesticulate. I don't believe that either he or Mr. Hinton made any great mistakes, but were mistakes made within the organisation? Absolutely. Were people I trusted or that they trusted badly betrayed? Yes.
Finally, to James Murdoch, it was reported that when Rebecca Brooks spoke at to staff when the announcement of the closure of the News of the World was made, that she said that in a year's time they might understand why the paper had to close. What do you think? I won't ask you to comment on what she thought in saying that, but do you think? What's the significance of that period of time of a year? Are you expecting there to be significantly more revelations that will come out that made the closure of the News of the World, with hindsight, inevitable?
I don't. I can't speak to what she was specifically referring to. She made those comments herself, and you know, when she was saying goodbye, sadly, to the staff. But I can say that, you know, what happened at the News of the World in the events leading up to the 2007 affairs and prosecutions and what we know about those things now were bad. And there are things that should not have any place in our organization, and there are things that we unreservedly and really sincerely am sorry for. We haven't seen the end of this in terms of the ongoing police investigations that are there. As you know, Mr. Collins, there are a number of people who have been arrested. We don't know what's going to happen in the future around those things. But given the breach of trust, given the allegations that were emerging at a rapid pace, you know, it was clear to me anyway, and I think that the future will bear this out, without any specific knowledge of the future, obviously, that, you know, it was the right thing for the paper to cease publication.
Your father said in his Wall Street Journal interview that you, Mr. James Murdoch, had acted as fast as he could, the moment he could. Does that suggest that you were held back at any point? Have you been frustrated in this process in the last few weeks?
As I said to the committee earlier, I can't remember which member, my apologies, but Mr. Collins, you know, this has been a frustrating process, and actually, you know, my frustration, I think, or my real anger to learn that, you know, there was new evidence emerging as late as the end of 2010 was real and is real. And, you know, what I've done and what the company has tried to do is take new information, adjust our course, behave with propriety, behave quickly, behave in a humble way with respect to what's happened and with respect to trying to really put it right. And that's what we're trying to do. It was enormously frustrating. That does not mean that I have any knowledge of anyone intentionally misleading me in the company. I don't, which makes it doubly frustrating. But we are where we are. New information emerged through a legitimate due process of a civil trial. The company acted on it as fast as possibly could be expected, and actually, you know, still new information or new allegations are emerging that, you know, the company is and we are trying to deal with in, you know, in as right a way as we can, and in the best way possible.
Thank you.
And finally, sorry to keep Louise mentioned.